Now, I do want to get to this article by Lucia Grant called Exposing the Humiliation Ritual, Elon, Doge, and the Theater of Submission, because this will fill in some of the blanks regarding the black eye that Elon had in the Oval Office and explain it a little bit. Lucia Grant says, there is a hidden pattern running beneath the surface of modern culture, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. I call it a humiliation ritual, a deliberate act of public disgrace, often masquerading as entertainment, fashion, or scandal, and it's designed to mark someone as owned by the system. And when you understand what's really going on, it doesn't just explain Hollywood or politics, it exposes the enemy's strategy, which is to shame the image of God in humanity and exalt a false kingdom. I like that. Sometimes we forget that we don't war against flesh and blood, but we're warring against powers and principalities. That the enemy is not just the enemy is not the left. The enemy is not people doing bad things. That the enemy is ultimately the devil. And he's not just mocking people who are trying to do good, but he's actually mocking God. It says that the enemy's strategy is to shame the image of God in humanity and exalt a false kingdom. This is a powerful article. We're not talking about random embarrassment. This is a targeted, theatrical, and loaded with occult symbolism. Case in point, Elon Musk, within the span of a few days, we saw him show up with a black eye, and then like clockwork, 3 days later, he and Donald Trump go nuclear on each other in a flurry of tweets. To the untrained eye, it's chaos. But to those paying attention, this is ritual theater. And I suggested earlier in the video, but we might break this up into 2 videos, that when it comes to ritual theater, you can go to the Operation HAL YouTube page and take a look at our video called Theater of the Elite, How the World Becomes a Ritual Stage, where we talk about this. Also, Trump crowned king by Saudi Arabia also covers this idea of ritual theater. But to those paying attention, this is ritual theater. Elon's black eye follows a pattern that we've seen before among celebrities, politicians, and even royals. The left eye, now Elon's was the right eye, but it says the left eye, bruised or bandaged, is a common occult signal, often interpreted as the eye of Horus or the eye of submission, a sign that the individual has either been disciplined or initiated. Combine that with the timing of the Doge drop, a symbolic turning away from the populist crypto crowd, and the ensuing digital war with Trump, and what you're witnessing is likely a humiliation ritual with layers of meaning. The purpose? Submission, control, and allegiance. Now, when Elon was in the Oval Office a few days ago, Trump handed him a key, and Elon had this black eye, it was his right eye. And I've heard some say that Trump is reversing, or the Trump operation is reversing from the left eye to the right eye, that the Trump operation is mocking the bad guys. Other people would say that Trump is controlled opposition as well. I've said all along that I believe what the Lord says to me. If he says that pray for Trump, I pray for Trump. I don't have to know all the details. We are watching this play unfold for us, and I trust in the Lord, and I believe that America is in a great revival, and we're just seeing it play out, and it's messy. Revival is messy because the normal state of God living in people is the state of revival: love, joy, peace, patience, overflow, abundance. And so when you live in a country that has been being strangled, we've been being strangled, but the real culprit is devils, demons, powers, principalities. And so whatever methods or means God is using to dislodge the powers and principalities from their perches of authority, it looks messy. Jezebel tries to tear down the house on the way out. And so that's what I believe we're seeing here. We're seeing demonic forces that are trying to tear down America on their way out. But make no mistake about it, God is driving these demonic hordes out of America. So who am I to decide what means or methods God is going to use? If he wants to use a Cyrus, let him use a Cyrus. If he wants to use a donkey, let him use a donkey. If he wants to use a sinner like me, let him use a sinner like me. So I'm not going to dictate how God brings about revival in America. The purpose, submission, control, and allegiance. These rituals act as a perverse baptism into the cabal's hierarchy. Before someone can rise, they must bow. Public humiliation becomes a satanic rite of passage, a sign to the hidden priesthoods that the initiate has surrendered their personal dignity and now belongs to the system. And if they resist, they're either blackballed, suicided, or scapegoated. Now, it's interesting that if you go back and you find the Jesse Waters clip. All right, here we go. I've got it queued up. Take a listen to what Trump says about Elon.
Right after Trump had just thrown him a farewell party.
Remember, he was here for a long time. You saw a man who was very happy when he stood behind the Oval desk. And even with the black eye, I said, "Do you want a little makeup? We'll get you a little makeup."
Now listen to that. That sounds like a throwaway line. Like that's just Trump being Trump. But notice he mentions Elon's black eye. I 100% believe that was a reminder to Elon and a reminder to anybody else he's signaling about that black eye. And he goes on to say basically he offered him makeup, but that Elon just wanted to be who Elon was. Take a listen.
And even with the black eye, I said, "Do you want a little makeup? We'll get you a little makeup." But he said, "No, I don't think so," which is interesting and very nice. He wants to be who he is. You were here.
I love that. Listen to that. Very nice. He wants to be who he is. What does Trump know that we don't know? See, his form of communication is pretty incredible. You think he's just using these throwaway lines. Trump just talks in these odd ways. No, he's releasing information. He's telling us something about Elon Musk and the black eye. Let's hear that again.
I said, "Do you want a little makeup?" Stood behind the Oval desk. And even with the black eye, I said, "Do you want a little makeup? We'll get you a little makeup." But he said, "No, I don't think so," which is interesting and very nice. He wants to be who he is. You were here.
He wants to be who he is. Who is he? Who is Elon Musk? He was once wearing a Baphomet outfit. How did he become the Tesla guy? Is he another Mark Zuckerberg? Is he another, who are the guys who allegedly created Google? We have a video. Hopefully I can find this real quick here. Oh yeah, here we go. I think it's this one. AI technocrat God coming soon. The algorithm is a prophet. Now this video goes into how every one of these big tech rollouts is just that. It's a rollout. And they're really rolling out the mythology of it. So the question is Elon Musk even the genius that everybody thinks that he is? And just to give you a little flavor, a little taste of this, I'm going to play this video. It's an article by Lucia Grant, and this is going to sort of expose the mythology of tech rollouts. And I've told this story before that many years ago, I was approached by a guy who ran for governor out here in Utah, and he told me that when he was at Stanford getting his PhD back in the 80s, that they were working on the rollout of what we now know as Google. And he said that Google was designed actually to be an interface with what we now know as AI or ChatGPT or these types of AI systems we're seeing now, that Google was designed to feed AI because AI needs the information, which means they had the AI back in the 80s. So Google was a frontline interface to feed AI so that AI could have behavioral prediction capabilities. And so, but anyways, check out this video here where it actually describes why they roll these technologies out with a mythology or a story of who the CEOs are. Algorithm is a Prophet, Part 1, The Theater of the Inventors by Lucia Grant of Technocrat Watch. This is a reality-shifting article. Check this out. You didn't choose Google. Google chose you. You never discovered Facebook, but Facebook discovered you. The glowing, cheerful tales that we've been told of barefoot geniuses building empires in dorm rooms are not history, they're mythology. Manufactured origin stories scripted by intelligence agencies, marketed by media sorcerers, and swallowed up by a trusting public. So is Elon just another one of the barefoot genius stories that we've been told so they could roll out a technology that they've had all along? How deep does the rabbit hole go? All right, back to Lucia Grant. It's not just celebrities. Political leaders, CEOs, influencers, even pastors have been drawn into this matrix. Sometimes it's manufactured scandal. Other times it's a spiritual stronghold exploited at the right moment. The enemy loves to make a public mockery of those who once carried light, or in Elon's case, those who pretend to carry it while dancing on the edge of darkness. Why? Because it's not just about the person, it's about us. Hear this. These rituals are curses broadcast through mass media. They train us, oh man, this is so powerful. They train us to laugh at shame, to normalize inversion, to celebrate the fall of those made in God's image. It's collective defilement disguised as entertainment, a dark parody of Christ's public humiliation on the cross. I'm going to read that again. These rituals are curses broadcast through mass media. They train us to laugh at shame, to normalize inversion, to celebrate the fall of those made in God's image. It's collective defilement disguised as entertainment, a dark parody of Christ's public humiliation on the cross. That is powerful. We can't forget that we do not war against flesh and blood, that all this ritual theater, all of the bad guys behind the scene, all of the occult priesthood, these humans are being controlled ultimately by powers and principalities, by dark forces of wickedness, that Satan is our enemy and he is a defeated foe. She goes on, but here's the good news. Once exposed, these rituals lose power. That's why we're sharing this, because the Bible says that once a thief is caught, he owes back that which he has stolen. The enemy's main power is in deceiving us. So we throw powder on the invisible octopus by sharing and pointing out their rituals. And every red pill counts. Revelation breaks the spell. When the bride of Christ sees what's really happening, she doesn't cheer or scorn. She mourns, prays, and wages war in the spirit. We need to pray for Elon Musk, pray for Trump, pray for the Satanists, pray for the globalists, pray for the beast, the people running the beast system on behalf of the devil. We've got to pray for them that they would be saved like the Apostle Paul, who once killed Christians. Because we're not just fighting culture wars, we're confronting the ancient priesthood of darkness that's still operating behind the scenes. This is why holiness matters, why discernment is essential, why we must walk in light and refuse to partner with shame-based power systems. The Lamb was humiliated unto glory. The world humiliates unto bondage. So the next time you see another headline about a fall from grace, especially when it's perfectly timed and strangely choreographed, ask the Spirit, is this a stumble or a ritual? Eyes open, knees bowed, let's take back the narrative. Lucia Grant.
And even with the black eye, I said, do you want a little makeup? We'll get you a little makeup. But he said, no, I don't think so, which is interesting and very nice. He wants to be who he is.